The latest Marquette Law School poll shows the race for Wisconsin governor at a dead heat.
Here's a look at the latest numbers. The poll showed Mary Burke with 47% to 46%, a 47% lead to 46% over Governor Walker among likely voters. That is the first time that that has happened in this race. The poll has a 3.5% margin of error. Now that's a shift from the last poll that was taken in May. It showed Governor Walker up 48 to 45 among likely voters.
And among just, registered voters, Governor Walker leads Burke 46 to 45% with that same margin of error.
Charles Frankling is the director of the Marquette Law School poll. Welcome back. Good to see you.
Here.
So is this race as tight as it looks?
Yeah, I think so. And in fact, it means that for two polls in a row, both in May and now in July, all of our numbers are inside the margin of error. Statistically, an absolute dead heat. These little differences of up a point, down a point, statistically mean nothing, though politically they're very attention-getting.
Sure. Okay, so we've been talking about, this issue of outsourcing. Do you think it is a big enough controversy to where it's really going to move the needle?
I think what's happened is, just in this last 2 weeks, the campaign's kind of exploded after a period of relative quiet. And so this issue of outsourcing frames in part the economic issues confronting the state, the jobs issue, and at least initially shifted the jobs focus a little away from the 250,000 job promise and whether we're keeping up with other states or lagging behind. Now, just in the last day or two, the Burke campaign has come back with a commercial emphasizing that 250,000 promise. So the battle over jobs, whether it's outsourcing or whether it's goals and promises, is really being fully engaged right now.
Tomorrow is going to be a huge day at the state Supreme Court. We're expecting rulings from the justices on Act 10, on voter ID in Wisconsin, and on the domestic partner registry. So let's take each one of those individually and tell us how you think it could influence the governor's race. Let's start with Act 10.
Yeah, well, Act 10, of course, is the centerpiece of the governor's agenda from the first year. If the court upholds Act 10, then for most of the state, that means that the way we've been operating the last couple of years continues. Here in Madison, it does make a difference where contracts have been extended while Act 10 was under repeal. So there would be some changes locally, but in the broader picture, not so much. Should the court overturn some elements or all of Act 10, then that would be an earthquake.
Okay. So what do you think about voter ID?
Well, voter ID is complicated because here we have a state court ruling on it, but we also have a federal court that ruled in the spring on it. So I think in terms of the short term through the November election, the federal court order will probably prevent a change in how voter ID is done and prevent it being required. But we could very well end up with two courts, a state court going one direction, a federal court going the other. This is still a long, drawn-out appeals process.
And it's going to be the same way, probably, for the domestic partner registry.
Yes, where we've got federal courts ruling, striking down the same-sex marriage ban in the Constitution. That's not directly the issue of the domestic partner registry, but in many ways would change the shape of that. Again, there I think the implications in the long term remain a little more obscure, if you will.
And has each candidate been very vocal about their position on all of these issues?
Well, I think there have certainly been clear positions on Act 10, certainly. There's on same-sex marriage, Governor Walker has been very reluctant to state a clear position other than saying he supported the amendment barring same-sex marriage, and his position hasn't changed, but he hasn't emphasized what his position is. Mary Burke has been clearly in favor of that. I don't recall them speaking to the domestic partner registry recently, but presumably that's in line with their views of same-sex marriage.
Well, it's going to be a busy day tomorrow, starting bright and early in the morning, and we appreciate your thoughts on it.
A long, busy day for everybody.
Absolutely, that's right. Thanks, Charles. Always good to see you.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.